fresher leads are better, obviously, but there's also a time when you actually have a way higher close ratio when you've called them 15 times. And if you're in the middle there, you're not calling them 15 times and you're not, getting enough leads to have a right, like you have to have a window that makes sense. Too many new life insurance agents give up way too fast in their first 90 days, mostly because they lack the guidance and support to truly become successful.
We're going to show you exactly how to build so much momentum you actually feel like a freight train and lay the groundwork for your first six-figure year. What's going on, guys? If you're new here, I am Ryan Valet, the final expense expert, or better known as the Fexpert.
And I'm Cody Witzel, better known as the daddy of insurance.
Do me a favor, guys, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, drop a comment down below. Let us know where you're struggling in your first 90 days. All right, Cody. So the first thing that we need to talk about is a mindset for success. We talked about that in the first 30 days on how to master selling insurance. If you guys missed it, go back and check it out. Obviously, the first 30 days are very crucial, but in the first 90 days, things start to expand a little bit. You have more responsibilities and everything. What are the biggest things that we need to focus on, or a new agent needs to focus on in starting in the first 90 days?
So I'm going to say it's very similar to what we did in the first 30, right? So we got to have clear and measurable goals, um, and we have to really hit them, right? So things like MMAs and IPAs, income producing activities or money making activities, those need to be set at high standards, and you need to do them every day, right? You can't get off track and kind of run around and not do important things, right? Um, Losing track of that could really alter your business and slow you down from getting the success that you truly can accomplish in 90 days.
So when you're talking about MMAs or IPAs, give everybody an example of some IPAs or MMAs.
So it would be dialing, right? That would be obviously the number one. Follow-ups, being in contact with people, maybe on Facebook, posts, returning messages, things of that nature, right? Things that are going to get your name out there are going to get you out there to where somebody could be like, "Hey, Cody, I need some insurance." And you can get them on the phone or whatever the case may be. Those are going to be money-making activities. Everything else is pretty much paperwork, right? Or it can be done after hours or before hours. But there's a time frame, right? 8 a.m. basically to 8 p.m. that you can be on the phone and actually call people and have conversations that aren't directly related to you or close friends that are not going to be upset. You know what I mean?
So in other words, IPAs are engaging with potential prospects. The entire goal is to find that right prospect who is ready to buy and actually make money, which hence would equate to an IPA or income producing activity. I'm going to add something, in your first 90 days, another thing that essentially when you get into month two, you're going to really start to look to hone in certain things. Like you want to improve your close rate. When you're first starting out, you're trying to figure out exactly how you want to word certain things, how you want to kind of mold your pitch to each different prospect. And so in month two, you're going to really start to figure out how to sell efficiently. More ways to figure out whether what you're saying is right or wrong. Definitely listen to your own recordings. You're going to have to start paying attention to chargebacks potentially. Oftentimes that doesn't come until maybe, after 90 days. But if you start to see a few chargebacks, start to really figure out, well, maybe you shouldn't have sold that person, or maybe you were forcing it a little too much, or maybe you just let them control the conversation and you thought it was a lay down sale, but it really was just somebody who was going along with the flow because you were letting them.
Yeah, and I think if you can optimize your daily routine, right, you can ramp up sales. So there could be a lot of space in the day, right? But if you find out how to optimize this space, I think it's going to give you the opportunity while everybody else is making one sale a day, you can make two or three sales a day, right? And so you just got to kind of really hone in on that. And the first 30 days, you're not going to know. The second 30 days, which would be 60 days, you're going to kind of figure it out a little bit more. But by your third month, you should kind of know there's a flow to it, right? There's a rhythm. and you're kind of catching the wave. And when you get it and you feel the wave starting to come, you got to like double, triple down. Um, that's what I've always done, and it always, as soon as I catch the wave, I like hit it hard, and it always works out real well, right?
It's the theory of flow, right? Like whenever you're in the flow state, you want to keep that momentum going and really just stay focused on what you're doing. And that's what you're talking about by building that routine. You want to have that routine so you're constantly keeping that flywheel in motion because you just never know when it may have to slow down or stop. And the longer you can keep it going, the better. So agents who set 90-day goals and track progress are actually 43% more likely to succeed long term.
Yeah, and I think that goes to show, right? This is a great example of it's not the industry that makes a lot of people fail, but it's people that make people fail, right? They don't either give it enough time of day or they think they're going to come in and make $1 million in a week. And they don't really set the right expectations. They don't have a schedule or a calendar. They don't have all these things actually set up and know what it actually takes. It's like having a baby. Oh, we're going to have a baby. And then you realize how many sleepless nights you have, how many, warm bottles you have to make, diapers you have to change. And then it's a routine. And then you're just used to it, right? That first couple of months, that's really hard though, right? So it's the same thing with this, right? You got to take it head on and just, you have no option. Just do what you got to do. And as you improve that, tracking the numbers are going to make you as you do that and track the numbers, you're going to automatically see yourself succeeding long term.
100%. Yeah. Um, you want to jump into master the basics or you want me to?
Yeah, no, no, no. Ready? So I think we still got to go over what we got to do, right? So mastering the basics is going to be a huge thing. But for you, when we're doing this, tell me what you think about that. Like, what are the real basics that we actually have to master? Because there's a lot of stuff out there that an agent could think that they need to put their mind here or there, their time and energy. What are those things?
Without a yeah, so when it comes to mastering the basics, essentially what we're talking about is still becoming a master at the final expense game, right? You're going to start to hear more about term life and fully underwritten whole life. You know, you still want to absorb whatever knowledge you can, but do not put your focus in any of those other than final expense. It's best to really become a as close to a master with final expense before you start jumping into those. Obviously, we're not looking at getting into mortgage protection or IULs. You really want to focus on that one thing. Once you really get that down, then you can start to open it up. Usually around 6 months is when you can start looking at other products and just kind of dipping your toes. But that's what a mentor is there for. You want to let your mentor give you a guidance on what to write for term rather than you trying to figure out everything and make sure you're writing the right product. If you've got somebody who just wants term, then let your mentor give you the recommendation and then you can take it back to your client.
I got a question. It might be a little off topic, but would you say that most agents use FEX toolkits when they're doing
Seems
quoting or?
Yeah, it seems like the majority of people are using insurance toolkits. Um, there's becoming more and more quoters. I've actually seen multiple quoters out there. Some agencies even have their own quoter, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, it's when it comes to toolkits, you want to make sure. For those of you who are currently using toolkits, I don't know if you know this, but you can actually save clients' information in there so that way you can always go back and reference it. And we may not do it on every single client, but we highly recommend that you do that so that way you've got that information in there to come back and reference. So, like example, you've got to do a 2 call close. You don't want to have to try and retype everybody's, that person's information in again. You want to be able to have easy, quick access to it to where you can pull it up and see exactly what you're looking at right away.
Do you think when it comes to toolkits and using these coders that a lot of agents maybe make some mistakes because they don't know how to actually use the coder to their advantage and they just type in whatever the client says. Like if they said, "Oh yeah, I had cancer 7 years ago," and they type in cancer, like they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot, not knowing that most insurance companies ask only in the last 2 years have you had cancer versus ever, right? That's not really a question on any final expense application. You think that's, or maybe even just quote typing in uh, diagnosis and not medications, right? Is that ever you think a big issue?
That's 100% dead on. Yeah, I mean that's a very very good point. That yeah, we do see a lot agents who've been in the business, come in with us and they're putting in just like you said, just typing cancer and saying that they have it, or just saying past cancer or just guessing at the time frame. That's a terrible thing to do. You don't necessarily have to put every single last little detail in there. But in your first 90 days, you're going to start to learn, or you should, again, with the help of your team and any mentor that you have, you're going to start to learn how to truly underwrite somebody because everybody knows that most high blood pressure medications are not going to affect a standard final expense policy. But when you start to get into some of the heavier ones like spironolactone, carvedilol, those are going to be ones that can easily knock somebody out of a specific carrier. You need to start to watch and really pick up on medications and, like Cody said, specific diagnoses that um, potentially can affect the underwriting. But again, that's where your mentor is going to come in and be the savior. You're if you've got an unusual case, that whoever that is going to be the one that you can go to and really figure out the exact details. So,
Yeah,
um,
I think that's something too to hit on because medications are crazy, right? One could be prescribed for a headache, but that same medication can be prescribed for congestive heart failure, right? So you got to make sure that you're asking questions. So in your script or whatever, that's the next thing I think we need to kind of talk about is your sales process, but your script is a big thing. And whenever you get to that portion about medications or however it's worded in there, I think it's super important that you actually take time and you don't overlook that section, right? Like that should be a 3 to 5 minute section at least of going over those kinds of things to kind of find out what's really going on. Because I'm sure you're not the first person this person's talked to. And a lot of the times they're calling you because they've already gotten declined, right? Or turned down. So finding out why now is easier than doing 3 applications and then you wasting 2 hours of time with them and then they are not answering your call anymore because they're like, this guy can't help me, right? So
yeah, talk about the scripts, Cody. When it comes down to it, uh, there's a lot of rebuttals. There's a lot of essentially just overcoming objections. I think that's what a lot of people run into. Now, most people would probably pick up that our goal is to avoid objections altogether. So we're being proactive instead of reactive. But occasionally, you do just get an objection out of nowhere. And you need to know how to handle. So, kind of talk about, in your training process, what do you see in the first 90 days as far as what they should be really perfecting?
yeah, so I think most agents, 90% of agents that come in and they start learning the script and then they start talking to people is that they're talking in a scripted way, right? And so that raises a lot of red flags because if you tell, a lie for an hour, someone's going to finally figure out it's a lie, right? But if you're 90% truthful and you lie just a little bit or you bend the truth a little bit, they're not going to notice, right? Um, so when I say that, it's things like, telling them that you need their social, telling them that they're going to have to provide bank accounts and to most agents that's uncomfortable, right? So when they get to those parts of the script, they kind of like raise their voice or they like, oh, bite their teeth down or something, and that client feels that, hears it, and then feels skeptical, right? So I think that, and the biggest part of the script is going to be your opening, right? If you can open with confidence and find out where the client is on the Richter scale, and then find out how to match them. If you can do that, you can get all the way through a pitch every single time, it's not going to automatically make them buy something, right? But you're going to then be that much farther ahead in the game if you can do that portion of it, right? So get through the first 30, 45 seconds, build some trust, know where they're coming from, and then listen. A lot of people don't listen to the client. You got to
Mhm.
listen to what they're saying, what they want. If they're annoyed in their voice, how can you give them the fast version, but really it's not? You just tell them it's the fast version, so that way they stay on the phone and actually become trusting in you, so that then you're their agent, right?
Yeah, no, that's yeah, I mean more to that point, in your first 30 days, it's like Cody said, you sound very robotic and like you're reading a script. After the first 30 days is when you start to get more comfortable in your shell, and you should be, right? If you're after 30 days you're not comfortable with the script, not just have it memorized, but if you're not comfortable to where you're kind of molding to your client, then you need more work. You're probably not doing enough work, or you don't have the right guidance. So the days 31 to 90 should be really focused on opening up, and instead of just following word by word, you should be focusing on adapting to how your client is reacting. Like so, and don't forget, I mean, you gotta, part of what helps that is role plays. We are big on doing role plays and practicing with people. It's good to get comfortable on camera, because if you can do it on camera, with someone else, even though it's not real, it will help you whenever you get on the phone. um, by this time, 31 to 90 days, again, you're probably going to be relaxing on that a little bit. You probably don't need to do it near as often, but it is still great to get into that, to still do it, and keep up with it when time permits.
Yeah, and I would just say along those lines, just adding the call recording, right? So making sure you listen back to your calls. Um, you know your voice better than anybody else, right? So you're going to be able to tell when you're faking it or lying or you messed up a sentence. And it's going to be at the front of your mind the next time you get to that part of the script or sentence, and you're going to be able to tell the difference there, right? So I think those are huge things. And those really are stepping blocks to like what's going to separate you from a regular agent or somebody that fails out of the business to being somebody that it's easy and you succeed. When you get opportunities, you can't let them go, right? And if you let them go because you made a mistake, one, two times, you can own up to it. But then when it comes to habit and you just let it go and you don't try to fix it, that's craziness. That's absurd, right? So the things to fix it are the things that are going to keep you in the business. So, um, now I know that we've pretty much talked about like routine and things like that, but I know there's some key points, right, that follow the 30 days, the 60 days, the 90 days, all the way up to 10 years from now, like of things that we need to be doing that are going to help us continue to elevate and move on to the next level. Now, give me some insight on that. What do you think those things are?
Yeah, so essentially what you're looking at is you want to create I guess a success driven routine, right? Again, we're big on creatures of habit, and we want to make sure that the easiest way to do something is if you're doing it consistently all the time, then you don't forget to do it or forget how you did it. So that's why we're big proponents of get in and dial and get people on the phone. The saying dial first, dial often. I mean, that is so true, or so key, really, in making sure that you're staying consistent within your routine. And your routine may start to change a little bit. You might start looking into some handling some chargebacks and this and that. But you want to make sure that you set that time aside and focus on your dial time, because that's where you're going to make your money. Um, it's really, you know, I would say 31 to 90 days is where agents start to get in their head about, well, should I dial this early? Maybe I shouldn't dial after 5 o'clock because, or maybe I shouldn't dial at all at 5 o'clock because it seems like everybody is eating supper. It is unreal how many agents start to think that they need to change the entire script because they talk to one client that says that didn't like them or completely cusses them out, and now they think, oh well, that doesn't work anymore. Listen, there is a reason. If you've got somebody who's teaching you how to do this and has been in the business for a year and has consistent success, then you need to just listen to them and follow the script. Stick with it. It will pay off. You will eventually kind of veer off a little bit, but the especially with us, the script is the absolute basics. You want to make sure to follow that script all the time. The actual basics of the script, not word for word, is we're not saying follow it word for word, but you want to follow the basics of the script so that way you're not veering off and maybe even letting the client take over the call. So, but just remember, you got to just dial. Make the dials, be in the habit, and don't get in your head. Don't think that dialing early is gonna piss people off. You are gonna piss some people off, but there's also many people who are more than happy to answer the phone.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that real quick because I think it's more than just that, right? A lot of agents, they get in their head on that 31 to 90 days, and they do things like that, and they also do things like, um, I don't know if I should be triple dialing anymore.
Hmm.
I got cussed out, or I got hung up on, or nobody picked up today because I triple dialed everyone. They knew I was calling 3 times, so they chose not to answer my call. I think things like that are crazy, especially if it worked for you and you made money, right? This is the wave, right? The insurance business is the ocean, right? And you're in Maui or in Hawaii or wherever, and you're trying to catch that perfect wave, there you're gonna miss a lot of waves before you hit the wave, right? You just got to keep going. Keep your head down, keep dialing, keep knowing that you're putting in the work, right? If you just sit here and put in the work, 2 months from now, 3 years from now, you're going to be like, oh wow, it pays off, and you've practiced what you preached, and now you can give that same knowledge to other people. That's what me and Ryan have done it for 4.5, 5 years, right? We just did what we thought was best because we didn't have the mentorship. We did it, we did it, we did it, and now here we are, right? And we look back, we're like, wow, all we had to do was dial. That's
Mhm.
all.
Yep.
Keep doing it.
Obviously the work is very important, but outside of work, you want to continue to grow. What are some of the podcasts and such YouTube videos, whatever it may be? What are some of the things that you watch, Cody, that kind of help you with sales or maybe motivate you?
Think so. There's a lot of stuff that I do, right? So I have my own routine because I think it's important. We're family guys, right? So we have a family and we have a lot of other people that rely on us. I think it's really important to find that time in the day or the night or the morning for yourself, right? So going on a walk or getting a 20-minute, motivation YouTube video in, or uh, doing a little meditation, right? Just getting your head right and understanding that I made my bed today, I brushed my teeth, I took out the trash, I dropped the kids off at school. These are all wins. These are all things that you've accomplished. So let's accomplish a sell or a conversation
Wait,
or a
we're
quote.
supposed to brush our teeth?
I think so. I use Colgate. So, yeah, basically, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, we're not going to tell you, "Hey, get this book and read this book every single day." There's some guy I watch on my Instagram every morning. He pops up because Instagram knows me. Mark Zuckerberg knows what I'm doing, right? And he knows I want that guy. And every morning he does a little motivational, it's a 30-second video. I watch it every single day. It's a new video he posts, and it gets my mind right for me, right? That's for me. Now for you it might take more, or you might need some other self-help motivational things. Affirmations is a big one that a lot of people do, right? writing in a journal like their success or what they want to succeed at, and then reading it back. There's so many opportunities. Now, we're not telling you to do 100 of 100 because that would take your whole day. But we're telling you like find two or three and do them on a daily basis and see how that mentally shifts your mind, right?
And I
And it
can't stress enough how much you're going in this business, you're going to need something that's going to drive you. Very few people are driven solely by themselves or can learn everything from, some textbook to know how to do this or to have the motivation to do this every day. There are some days where both Cody and I know that's why we're so close, is because we pick each other up. Some days it's one or the other where we're just like, holy crap. Like this is just beating us down. It's been a rough week, or I've got so much work to do and I have very little time to get it done. And that's what those podcasts, YouTube videos, self-help books or motivational videos, whatever it may be, whatever really gets you going, you need to find that, because today it may not be difficult because you made 10 grand last month, and you made 10 grand in your first 30 days, and that's the most money that you've ever made in a single month, right? You might be on cloud nine, but that cloud nine will dissipate, and then all of a sudden you're falling and you feel like it's never going to stop. So you really have to have something that's going to keep your mind right. You unbelievably have to figure out, and I think in the first 90 days, maybe again 60 to 90, you really have to figure out how to keep, like you always say, even keel. You got to figure out how to stay level, because if you let yourself get too high, when you hit a low, you're going to bottom out and you're going to want to give up. And I always talk about 3 feet from gold. You got to keep pushing, because I guarantee you when you're about to stop pushing is when you're about to actually break through. So I just want to mention too, I know neither one of us read a whole lot, but we do try to read two really great books, especially in your first 90 days. One is Go for No. Really teaches you how to get over the fact of not hearing yes. Um, Another one is Patrick Bet David, Choose Your Enemies Wisely. Maybe not so good on necessarily in sales directly, but Patrick Bet David actually comes from the insurance world, so he's a really great one to listen to and learn from. A lot of just crazy knowledge that he's gotten. Again, it can be motivation for some people. So,
I
and
would
go ahead.
I would add the power of one more too, right?
Yes,
It's
Ed
a book
Milet.
that yeah, the power of one more. If you can just make one more call, one more dial, one more whatever it is, right? One more text, one more whatever. It's insane what that does because the one more now is 50 or 60 more that you've done, and you finally hit that cell and you're like, man, I'm really proud of myself for doing what I said I was going to do, right? Or doing one more. Um, there's days where it works and there's days where it doesn't, right? But at least at the end of the day, you know you put in the work. And I'll say for me, coming from I came from and not ever being in a sales position, I think the being humble and the staying true to yourself and starting and staying in the same mind frame the whole time, right? Because one of the biggest reasons that I think a ton of agents fail is because they get lost in the sauce, right? Meaning that they master this and then it becomes too easy to them, right? And so they start doing too many other things and putting their hands and their feet in other jars and bowls, and then they forget what they did to become successful and how to fix that, right? Um, and then the business is really about regulating emotions, right? Like you got to be able to stay and kill, stay true to yourself, and stay on top of the things that you need to do. It's really easy to put off emails. It's really easy to put off contracting or talking to an agent or whatever it is for you. right? But if you just put it off, then it's a huge pile, and now you never want to get to it, right? So just do it even though you don't want to, and that's going to truly help you be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, talking more on things that are going to make sure that you stay successful. Um, like we said in the first 30 days, don't forget you gotta track your metrics. You gotta really, now's the time when you've got enough data to really start analyzing what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. Now is the time when you've got enough calls where you can, enough calls to enough pickups to enough pitches and quotes and so forth, where you can start analyzing, okay, I'm not, Cody is quoting 10 people a day and I'm only getting 5 people a day to quotes. You're going to have enough data to where you can really start to drill down, and you're going to be able to tell where that particular ad is coming from, where that particular lead is coming from. So now is the time to start dialing in, making sure that you don't forget your metrics, making sure that you're recording everything so you can go back and really analyze that data. So you really should have a schedule down by this point, and really beginning to understand your activity and how that leads to your sales. Um, you got to hold yourself accountable. Simple as that.
I want to touch on one thing that I'm kind of backtracking here, but I think along the lines of all of this, I think what a lot of agents do also is they get into their mind and they get into their brain on the spend that they're spending, right? Um, your first 30 days, it's like, hey, I know there's a lot of unexpected costs and I got to spend money here and buy this system and get this thing and this dialer and the headset and a computer, and you're like, okay, I spent 2 grand, 3 grand, right? And then month two, you're like, I'm buying leads and I'm buying this, and then month three, I'm buying more leads. But now you start to look at numbers, and you're like, is this really viable, right? I'm making 10 grand a month, but my leads are 700 a week, 1,000 a week. So I'm spending 4,000. So now I'm making six. I got two chargebacks, and I only made 2,500, whatever the numbers are, right? And now you're like, well, the way I can cut it is by spending less on my ad or my leads, right? And I'll tell you that's a failure, right? Because leads are, Ryan will finish the sentence.
Your lifeblood.
Yes. And if you don't buy your leads and you don't stack on your leads, you're gonna fail. So if you're gonna cut stuff, don't cut the leads, don't cut your ads, don't cut your whatever it is. Keep that going and figure everything else out. And I will tell you that you got to stay on the same path for at least 6 months before you ever think about cutting down ads. You should probably be increasing ads along, right? You need more at bats. You need more time in the sand. You need all of this stuff so that way you can understand how it works. Now, when you cut it back, you can know how to scale it, right? I know
That's a
you want to
great
say
point,
something.
man. I mean, the on the opposite side of that. So you're talking about when people start to get in their head and start to get kind of scared. They're maybe not making as much return. The opposite side of that is like the people who do really well right out the gate and start killing it right out the gate. They start to see, oh wow, I'm spending 700 a week and I'm making 4 grand off of that 700. Man, how about I scale that back to 300, and I'm sorry, unfortunately this whole sales doesn't matter. I work for huge companies that I sold for, that it was all just a numbers game. They had the numbers down. They knew exactly what the numbers were and how many calls it took or how many clients it took to actually make a sale. And same way here in this business, it's even more true in this business that if you're only getting 100 people, you're only going to talk to so many people out of that 100 people, out of those 100 leads. So if you're only going to talk to 30 people, say you actually talk to 30 people out of 100 leads, but then you cut that down to 50, it doesn't equate. When you start to go down, oftentimes whenever you take it up, it will start to kind of double. If you're spending 700 a week and you decide to spend 1400 a week, it oftentimes will double. But scaling it back doesn't work the same way. If you go from spending 700 a week down to 300 a week, you're now going to decrease so much. It's probably going to be, instead of scaling, instead of talking to 30 people, you're not going to talk to 15. You might talk to 8 to 10. And the more you start to cut those potential opportunities down, the more you're going to the less you're going to have to sell.
Yeah, and I think a big thing too is a lot of agents say, "Well, I have a bunch of leads I haven't gotten to, right? Or I have a bunch of leads that I haven't called 100 times," um, which is okay. Keep those in the back burner and keep working those because every day you don't get 20 fresh leads, right? So, you get 5, 10, 12, 15 maybe, right? That's where we're at. And but I still got 4,000 leads in my system that I can call for the 20th time. And if I work those, I always get one or two a month every couple of weeks that are old leads that if I didn't keep them there and keep dialing them, I would have never sold it. Fresher leads are better, obviously, but there's also a time when you actually have a way higher close ratio when you've called them 15 times. And if you're in the middle there, you're not calling them 15 times and you're not getting enough leads to have a right. Like you have to have a window that makes sense. You got to find that out, and it's going to take longer than 90 days to figure this portion out, right? So we're giving you a glimpse, but you have to double down on your lead spend and what you're spending on your leads so that you can maximize your money.
Another thing I want to kind of talk about, to start hitting metrics and such, after maybe even before you hit day 31, but especially after day 31, you should be at a bare minimum. You should have enough leads coming in, enough people to talk to that you should be hitting it. So 300 dials a day, 10 quotes a day, or one sale a day, right? Oftentimes it's more than one sale a day if you're putting in that much effort. But that should be your bare minimum goal before you say, I'm just going to call it quits today. Because it's very easy to get discouraged in this business and quit if you don't have those type of metrics. It's very easy for you to tell yourself, I think I've done a lot of dials today, and I think I'm just going to quit because I've already had 10 people tell me to F off. If you don't know how many dials you're actually making and you're not tracking the amount of dials, then you're oftentimes going to think that you've done more than what you really have, because it's exhausting. So it drags on. So
Yes. And I will say, I believe, highly, highly believe that you have to hit one of those three goals every single day. 300 dials, uh, 10 conversations, a quote, something like that, or one sell. If you do one sell in your first hour, if you call it quits, you're a loser, in my opinion, right? Because that's where the wave is taking you, right? Like the wave is taking, man, there's going to be two more today, right? So my goal is to hit $300 every single day. And if I make 10 sells and don't get there, I shot for the moon, but I hit the stars, right? I'm not going to complain. But if I make one sell by 10 o'clock in the morning and I'm like, hey, I'm going to call it quits, I will never be where I'm at today if I did that, right? And I think that's a big thing is it's not about this business is not about sales. It's about consistency. And the more consistent you are along the way, the more money you're going to make, which is awesome. That's why we're here, right? But the more respect you're going to get, the more reliability you're going to have, the bigger client base you're going to get, the more referrals and trips you'll win and all kinds of stuff, right? And that's a bigger part of the business is all the other things that come into it, right? So really, really important that you make sure you set those three metrics and you hit one of them every single day and don't ever quit before you hit one, right?
yep. Yep. Remember, just as we said before, you have to continue to focus on income producing activities. And again, remember that every dial, every conversation, every no is just a step closer to a yes. So, kind of recap everything that we've talked about, Cody, all in a nutshell. What exactly, what are your five major things that you would say are absolutely crucial out of everything to focus on 100%?
One is going to be schedule, right? Two is going to be dials. Three is going to be mindset. Four is going to be self doubt, right? You need to stay away from that. And five is going to be come in with a purpose, right? Every day, work with a purpose and an agenda that is actually going to get you to the next step, right? I think those five things, of course, there's more other ways we could word them or better things I could have said, right? But off the top of the head, if you can do those five things, no matter what you do, if it's this or something else, you can become successful. Um, and that's a building block, right? So you want those building blocks, and now you'll get more and more along the way. But that's the main five, I think, to get you to where you want to be in 90 days.
The man's got the plan. Listen to him, guys.
Daddy of insurance. You
Yeah,
heard it
he
here
is the
first.
daddy of insurance with the Fexpert on the line, baby. Guys, remember every single day counts, but your first 90 days will completely define your momentum for the entire year. So if you guys are serious about taking your career to the next level, do us a favor. Hit us up at rycohaveitall@gmail.com. Just send us a quick email. Let us know you're interested, and we'll reach out from there on the next steps as far as having a conversation. As I said before, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and drop a comment down below and let us know what your number one goal for the first 90 days is. We'll see you in the next one.